Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Davey Death Ray here, back with another movie review. This time around, we're taking a look at Zach Cregger's Weapons from 2025, starring Julia Garner, Josh Brolin, and Benedict Wong. So the way we do reviews here is I give you my overall thoughts. We talk about the story, the direction and cinematography, the acting, the music and sound design, and the visual effects, kills, all that kind of fun stuff. And guys, moving forward with the movie reviews here on the channel, I'm going to keep everything non-spoiler for the most part, but I will have a spoiler section at the end of the review. Don't worry though, I'll give you plenty of heads up before we get there. So without any further hold up, let's jump into what was one of my most anticipated films of the year. Real quick before we get going, please like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts on Weapons down below. Okay, so my overall thoughts on Weapons. Now, I really enjoyed Zach Cregger's first film, Barbarian. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was creepy, kind of kept me guessing the whole time. And with the marketing for Weapons, I thought they did an amazing job. There was so much mystery. I really wanted to know what was going on in this story. And I went into the theater expecting to absolutely love this film, especially based on everything I heard. Now, the first 2/3 of the movie I really enjoyed. We'll talk about all that kind of stuff a little bit deeper as we get into our categories. But once we got into the third act and we had our reveal, our revelation, and we started building towards the finale of the film, they kind of lost me a little bit. And I ended up walking out liking the movie, but not quite loving it. Now, getting into the story of the film, we all kind of know the setup, right? There's an elementary school in a small town, and 17 children from a third grade classroom have all gone missing at 2:17 in the morning. They got out of their beds and ran out of their homes, and the parents don't know what the heck is going on. The police have no leads, they can't find anything, and essentially our main character, Julia Garner, who plays Justine, is blamed for everything, or at least she's suspected of some sort of wrongdoing. I mean, I guess they have to have somebody to blame because there are no answers here. And we sort of pick up with all of our characters a month after this happened, and they are dealing with everything and trying to figure out what's what. And that's about as much as I want to give away without spoiling anything, but don't worry, we'll get to all of that later on in the review. And like I said in my overall thoughts, I really dug the way that this story was set up. I like the tension, the mystery, the buildup of dread. I think it's really awesome kind of just having this story that's a big question mark where something inexplicable has happened, and we get to follow each one of these characters almost in like an out of order Tarantino style, where you go with one character and then you jump over to another character and you kind of see how the story unveils for each one of them as we build towards the third act of the film. And the characters here in the story all seem very grounded. They are people that have flaws. They've got positive points to their character as well. No one is really over the top. It all seems very believable, and it's easy to buy into the world. So I really appreciated that about the way that the story was told as well. So when it comes to the direction and cinematography, the film looks beautiful. I mean, Zach Cregger knows where to put the camera. He knows how to use that to create those scares. I mean, there are so many skin-crawlingly scary moments in this film that really worked for me in so many ways. And just, again, that buildup of dread, I think the use of the camera and the direction are a big part of that. I've heard some people say that the movie looked really dark. In the theater that I saw it in, I didn't have any issues seeing stuff. I thought it was well lit. I felt like if any of the scenes were obscured by the darkness, that was done intentionally. It didn't seem like it was something that was overused or anything like that. I really loved the way that the movie looked, and this movie had me sucked in for so much of it. I was on the edge of my seat just waiting for the next little bit of information, waiting for that other shoe to drop and to be completely shocked. And a big part of that is the way it was shot and directed. Jumping into the acting and performances, Super solid performances all around. From the main players, from our side characters, I thought everyone did a really great job here. Now, one of the performances I don't really want to talk about until we enter our spoiler section because I don't want to give that away. But let's go ahead and take care of our main players here. Julia Garner, oh my god, one of my favorite actresses, if not my favorite actress working currently. I mean, Wolfman wasn't even a good movie, but she was outstanding in that film, and she was the one thing that kept me anchored in that movie. And then I saw her as the Silver Surfer in Fantastic Four just a couple weeks ago, and I thought she was captivating. I mean, there's something about her look and the way she performs that just really sucks me in. And again, the character is so well written and well rounded that you understand the positive qualities of her and you understand the things that she's struggling with. It all seems very believable, and she does a fantastic job getting that across. And playing opposite of Julia Garner, we've got Josh Brolin and Benedict Wong. I would say those are the other two mains that we have in the film. Josh Brolin is so damn good here. I mean, I haven't really seen him be less than solid in anything, and you can really see the worry in his character. You know, he is the father of one of the missing children. That's something that is shown in the trailers of the film, so I don't think that's really going into any spoiler territory. And you can tell that this is really wearing him down, and it is weighing on his conscience. He feels like he has to do something, that he has to figure out what's happened not only to his son, but to the rest of the children that are missing. So as his life sort of becomes unhinged and is crumbling apart, he has, feelings of animosity towards Justine, the teacher of the classroom. But as things move on in the story, he gains a better understanding of what's going on and starts to put together what's happening and slowly starts figuring out, or at least piecing together, some clues that could eventually end up in them finding the missing children. And when it comes to Benedict Wong's performance here, there is just something so soft and gentle about the way he plays the role here. He is the principal of the elementary school, and it just seems, again, very believable. He is, caught in between the teacher. He's trying to deal with the upset parents, the upset town folk. He also knows the quality of character of Justine and doesn't believe that she's up to anything nefarious or anything like that. So he's sort of stuck in this really difficult spot of trying to deal with and help the town cope with the missing children, and I think it's handled beautifully. And we've got a couple really great side characters here, or, I guess you could call them co-mains, in Alden Ehrenreich as Paul and Austin Abrams as James. Now, Paul is a police officer, and he's weaved into the story through a couple different ways here, and there's just something so down home and natural about his performance. As I was watching the movie, I had totally forgotten that it was Alden Ehrenreich who had played Han Solo in the Solo movie, and I'm sitting there looking at him and I'm like, where do I know this guy from? So that was kind of nice that it didn't take me out of the movie. I wasn't sitting there thinking, oh, this is Han Solo. Like, I just wasn't paying attention to that, and a really natural performance that adds some drama in a couple different ways and is a really good way to round out the cast of characters here. Now, when it comes to Austin Abrams as James, this guy might be the low-key MVP. He is the Spirit Award winner, I would say, of the performers here, because I've never heard of this guy. I haven't seen him in anything, and his character is like the town junkie, not the greatest guy, and he sort of stumbles upon certain answers to the mystery in typical fashion that you would think that some sort of low-level criminal might. And the way he plays the character here is so believable. I mean, I lived in Portland. I saw all sorts of street people, all sorts of kind of tweakers or whatever. And this is such a believable performance. I feel like I've used that word so much when talking about the acting here, because I think that's the one word I would use to describe most of these performances. They really ground you and get you invested in what's going on, and That's one thing that I was surprised to see just from having seen the first and second trailer, is I had no idea just how big of a role that this character would play in the film. And credit to Austin Abrams, because he totally knocks it out of the park here and was a big surprise for me. All right, now it's time to talk about one of my favorite aspects of the film, which is the music and the sound design. And I'm pretty surprised to see this because not only did Zach Cregger write and direct the film, but he also composed the music with Ryan and Hayes Holiday. And man, the music here, the score, there's this really cool mix of sort of like electronic, sort of like synthy sort of voices as far as the percussion goes, but really nice strings, light plucking of instruments. So there's this mixture of a digital kind of sound with an organic sort of sound that they use very well to help build that tension and build the dread. And as far as the sound design goes, man, I was talking about those skin crawling moments earlier on in my overall thoughts. There are a couple very well-earned jump scares and some genuinely creepy moments that have nothing to do with jumps or anything like that, but they're all very well-earned, very effective, and the sound design is huge in giving you that shock, that like cold chills all over your skin, which I got a couple times here in the film. So man, extra shout out to Zach Cregger for not only, composing the visuals of the film and the script, but also helping out with the music. I think that's an incredibly powerful gift to have as a filmmaker. When you look at somebody like John Carpenter that can control the visuals and control the audio, when you can do both of those things, you can, in essence, control the audience's experience. So it's no wonder that so many people love this film, and I really connected with the music and the sound design here. Moving on over to the visual effects, and specifically the makeup and the gore effects here, really good stuff. And this movie is one that doesn't lean on that stuff too much. There are a couple bigger moments. Some of them you can see in the final trailer, and then there's going to be some surprises for the folks that haven't had things spoiled for them. But I would say overall, when it comes to the makeup here, all of it's very believable. A lot of it looks practical to me. Now, sometimes it's difficult to tell. I would say, the makeup appliances and everything like that, especially when we get into our villain of the piece, the makeup was done really, really well here. I mean, very creepy, very disturbing, part of the whole skin crawly element that I'm talking about. And then there are some moments that are in that final trailer where you can see, some stabbing of the face and some bloody faces and just some wild kind of out there effects. And yeah, everything works really well here. I would say, honestly, maybe towards the end, when we get to one of our bigger effect moments of the movie, I've heard some people say that it came off silly, although at that point I was ready for something really big to happen. Maybe if it was a bit more consistent in that manner, it might not have struck people in that sort of kind of humorous or over-the-top way, but there certainly are a few moments here where the gore goes really big and it looks great. So that wraps up my non-spoiler thoughts on the film, and what I'll say is this, as far as recommendation goes and all of that, I would say if you really liked Barbarian and if you are a horror fan, you are gonna want to check this out in the theater. Trust me, you don't want it spoiled by some tweet or something on social media or anything like that. So check this one out in the theater. I think it's absolutely worth it. Having said that, I would say this is like a 3.5 out of 5 for me on the stars scale. I really loved the first two acts. The third act didn't really land for me as well as I wanted it to. I think that's an issue that I sometimes find with horror. And I think really for me, when it comes to a movie like this that is all about building that tension, the mood, the atmosphere, the dread, all of that kind of good stuff, I want the third act to maybe be shorter than the first two acts and sort of, once we get that reveal and that revelation, I kind of want them to rip the Band-Aid off, get us to the end, and get the hell out of there, because I think the longer that you linger on that third act and the more mystery and the more you peel back on all of that mystique, at least for me as an audience member, it sort of deflates the film and we kind of limp to the end. And that's what I found with Weapons. Again, I went in thinking that I was going to love this. I ended up liking it. I do recommend it to horror fans. And yeah, go check it out in the theater. If you're a horror fan, you do not want this spoiled. I'll go ahead and say that again, because now is the time where we will get into spoilers. So if you're stopping here, thank you so much for tuning into the non-spoiler section of the review. And having said that, let's get into those spoilers. Okay, now here is the spot where I can just sort of relax a little bit, maybe go a little more stream of consciousness, so I might not edit this too much. And I'm not going to get into every little thing here with the spoilers. Really, it's just going to be, kind of explaining some more of the issues that I had with the film in that third act, and talk about Amy Madigan's performance as Gladys, who is our villain of the piece. I didn't even want to mention her because I don't really remember seeing her in the trailers, and so I didn't want to talk about that at all because to me it was kind of a surprise, because there are those jump scare moments that you get where you see what you find out to be her character, although I do think she looks a little more monstrous in those skin-crawling scares that we get earlier on in the film. But man, I had no idea that it was Amy Madigan, another one of these performers in this movie where, watch the movie, it didn't even occur to me. I believe she is Kevin Costner's wife in Field of Dreams. She's Uncle Buck's girlfriend in Uncle Buck. She's been in a whole bunch of stuff. So she's been around for a while and an actress that I've always really enjoyed. And she is creepy as hell in this movie. And I would say the only detractor for me, we spend so much time with her character in the third act of the film, maybe end of second act going into the third act. And because the movie is chopped up in sort of that Pulp Fiction kind of way where you spend time with Justine and then with Josh Brolin's character and then with Paul and James, and then you go to Alex, who is the one child from Justine's classroom who didn't go missing. So that's another piece that I didn't want to explain in the non-spoiler section because that was a total surprise to me. And what we find out is all of these children basically ran to Alex's house, and we're trying to figure out, or our characters are trying to figure out, why that is and what's happening. And essentially, to put it plainly, Gladys is a witch. She is, who knows how old she is? It seems like she's dying or falling apart or losing her life force. And so she uses her witchcraft to not only create weapons out of some of the characters by casting spells, but also, and they don't really explain this, I just sort of picked it up, it seems like she really is trying to literally suck the life force from the children to, make her better, make her more youthful, just give her another lease on life. And, with this movie running, I believe, 2 hours, 8 minutes, I think it's a film that would have benefited from only being about an hour and 50, something like that. I think hour 55, I just don't really know if we needed the third act to be as long as it was, because we spend a lot of time with her and Alex. We see what she puts Alex through, which I sort of got the point after one go around, but we keep on kind of cycling through. It does get progressively worse, but I'm sort of picking up what they're putting down, and the mystique and the fear that I felt of her character, it just started dissipating. The longer the movie went on, the more and more it sort of went away, even though she is still a powerful character and a character to be reckoned with, because she always seemed to kind of be one step ahead or be able to get the upper hand on people quite easily. I just didn't really find her very scary the longer that the movie went on. And then when we get to the full-on finale of the film and she's using Paul and James as her latest round of weapons, she also does the same thing with Alex's parents, who are kind of comatose or catatonic at this point. The movie just kind of really goes off the rails. They're, I don't know, unintentional comedic moments. Maybe they were supposed to be funny, but when Josh Brolin is fighting, weapon James, and he just keeps on coming back, it's just like, oh, this again? Like, he keeps on screaming at him. Josh Brolin's character, like, throws him, punches him. He just keeps on coming back. And, you know, when Paul attacks Justine, that works a little bit better in that regard. But once Alex figures out, you know, what's going on, he's been watching Gladys use her spells. You know, she's got this specific, it's a twig that's off of this plant that she has. And she, you know, stabs it, rubs her blood on like people's hair or just like an item of theirs to be able to control them. So Alex figures, okay, well, now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to send all of the children after you. And once he snaps that branch and all of the children in the basement wake up and go after Gladys, that gets pretty silly. And I just don't know if they really earned the silly moments. I mean, there are a couple kind of funny moments throughout the film that break the tension, but this is when it, at least for me, went totally off the rails. Literally, the children are like jumping through windows. They're going from like house to house. It's kind of like the end of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, when Ferris Bueller is running through all the people's homes and he's like, oh, what's that? Smells good. And like all these people are just seeing him run through the yard and run through their houses so he can get home in time. We basically get that, except for it's Gladys realizing that the 17 children are running after her to completely rip her apart, because that's what the weapons do. They essentially just turn into the most wild animals. And so once they catch up with her, they completely tear her apart, like limb from limb, literally, and then like ripping apart the jaw, a la... It's kind of like Captain Rhodes and, gosh, what's the other character's name in Day of the Dead, where he has like his eyes ripped off and then one of the guys has his head ripped off. There is just something about it that, while I appreciated the gore and liked that they went there, I felt like it was an odd way to end the movie. And even if they wanted to end the movie that way, I think if we spent less time with Gladys and if we didn't, you know, eat away at that mystique as much as we did, I feel like I would have liked the ending more. So essentially that's what kind of dropped it almost like a whole star rating for me. The first 2/3 of the movie, I was completely invested. I probably would have given it a 4.5 out of 5 at that point. And then when we got to the last act, I was like, oh man, I really wanted something else. And another thing about that last act is we sort of fall into the old hag horror trope, which I think can be effective. I just feel like we've been seeing it a lot lately. You know, Cregger uses it in Barbarian as well, so he's 2 for 2 on the old hag trope. Not the biggest fan. We kind of got that in Bring Her Back as well. It's another reason why Bring Her Back, I thought it was a really well-made film. It just didn't really land for me either, because I feel like we've seen this so much in horror movies, and, you know, if we're going to use it, then I want there to be a more creative way to pull this trick out of the bag. And I feel like in Weapons, at least for me, it just didn't work. And it didn't really make me roll my eyes, but I was like, oh crap, this is what's going on. It's this simple. It's a witch. It's a witch that wants to live forever. Okay. So yeah, guys, I mean, you know, that kind of wraps up my spoiler thoughts. I don't really have much else that I want to spoil. I could go through the whole story and all that kind of stuff, but really I just wanted to focus on the end and Amy Madigan's amazing performance. Even though I didn't like the way that they took her character, or the way they used the character the entire time, she was magnificent. Okay, so that officially wraps up my non-spoiler and spoiler thoughts on 2025's Weapons by Zach Cregger. But I want to know what you guys think, so jump on into the comments down below and let me know your thoughts. Tell me where I'm right, tell me where I'm wrong. Let's get that conversation going. I love hearing your guys' thoughts, and I know a lot of people really loved this movie, so tell me what I'm missing. I will watch it again, and maybe I'll pick up on something that I missed before, and perhaps I'll gain a greater appreciation for the film. Before we head out, I want to give a big thank you and shout out to our amazing Patreon members and YouTube channel members. You guys are so awesome. It seems like week to week, month to month, you guys become a bigger part of my life along with everyone else in the community. And you guys are helping me get closer to really making this channel the dream that I always knew it could be. So thank you so very much. And of course, thank you for checking out the review. If you enjoyed what you saw, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share the channel with someone who you think would dig this kind of content. I go live multiple times a week. I'm heavy into the pre-recorded material. We cover a lot of the horror, TV, and movie news here on the channel as well. And we do that live, so jump on into the stream, hang out with us. The community is awesome. You are guaranteed to have a blast. But until next time, I've been and will continue being Davey Deathray. Take care.